stopper with great skill from him. Doing the Mo Salah! Raheem Sterling! What a finish! What pure class from the Englishman!
Premier Talk, the English Premier League podcast for the fans.
Hello and welcome back to the Premier Talk podcast. I'm one of your two hosts, as always, Andrew Mello. Alongside with me is the legendary Danny Barbuda, who just celebrated his 21st birthday over the weekend. Daniel, how's it going, bro?
I'm doing good, Andrew. Not feeling any different from being 20, but I guess that goes with the age, right? I'm excited because this is going to be a great episode as always. Andrew, I hope you're doing well. You had a big wedding. How was the wedding over the weekend?
Wedding's good. I didn't get married, but it was a good wedding. I had a good time.
Good.
Music was good. So, yeah. All right, Daniel, without further ado, let's get right into the starting lineup for this week.
Our starting lineup kicking us off, we've got storylines of the week.
Then we got a little table recap.
And then our third and final segment, as of 30 minutes ago, Unai Emery is back in the Premier League.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Daniel, let's kick it off with storylines of the week. We're going to start with the first one here. Gerrard out. So Aston Villa sacked Gerrard, former PL player, former Liverpool legend, had a successful campaign as a manager in Scotland over there with the Rangers. But with Aston Villa, it wasn't the same case, Daniel.
No, not at all. Look, his record was 2-3-6. He had 2 wins, 3 ties, and 6 losses. His win percentage at Villa was only 32%. It's not good enough to be in the Prem with those kind of numbers. And at a club like Aston Villa, they're ready to they're looking at what he did in Scotland for Rangers, and they're expecting him to kind of repeat that. Obviously, the quality of play is so different. And I think it's too much really to expect from a manager to come into the Premier League with a team like Aston Villa, who doesn't have the best quality, and expect him to succeed as well as he did at Rangers. But look, he won 32% of his games. It wasn't good enough. In the end, it got him sacked.
Daniel, I think what got him sacked was the fact that he had a great squad. You have Danny Ings, Watkins, you have Coutinho, McGinn. The list goes on there. You got Ings and Konsa. There's some and Cash. You got good players there. You got Digny as well. There's talent there, and I mean Martinez and goal. So there's loads of talent. I think it's not the best PL team on paper, but it's a pretty solid team. I'd say this is a team that could finish top 10 for sure, and even push into a European place, maybe a Conference League place. That's what I think the goal is for this club. Over the weekend, they had a game against Brentford. This is the first game without Gerrard. They won 4-0 against Brentford. It was a very convincing win without Stevie G. The caretaker manager at this point was Aaron Danks. He stepped up, and some key players that I mentioned were benched. So the likes of Coutinho, Ramsey, McGinn. Ramsey's a young up-and-coming talent that's been doing really well. Those 3 guys were all benched. Danny Ings had a brace though, scored a pen. The Jamaican international Leon Bailey was really good in this one. I thought he was arguably the best player on the pitch for Villa, getting an assist and a goal. Emmy, he was solid as well, 3 saves. And I really liked what Dendoncker did in the midfield paired with the captain. So Douglas Luiz was solid as well on this day. So I really feel like that partnership would help them to drive forward in transition. They were very good, the Belgian and the Brazilian together. It's not a pairing that we see very often with Villa because McGinn is so accustomed to playing alongside Douglas Luiz. But bringing in Dendoncker over in the summer from Wolves, he's finally getting some minutes now, and he was huge on this day with Luiz in the middle.
And this is a good game too, because it's a good game for Aston Villa, not necessarily for Brentford because they have absolutely smacked. But in a game where they were up 3-0 in the 12th or 13th minute, it allows them to not have to worry, with your manager just being sacked. You're trying to perform for your caretaker manager, Aaron Danks, who could be there for a long time. Now isn't after the news of Unai Emery coming in, but you want to perform, right? And going up 3-0 really early allows you to kind of get that pressure off your back, kind of relax and fit into your role for the rest of the game. And look, this team did so well to the point where they didn't even need their star players to come out and win this one. Coutinho, Ramsey, and McGinn did end up coming in the 70th minute, and obviously you could see the quality change. They didn't go on to score any more goals because they were already up 4-0 at that point. But look, this Aston Villa team is a team, like you said, that should be competing for a top 10 spot, and we'll soon find out what they're going to do with Unai Emery back there. He is the Europa League GOAT, so who knows where we see Aston Villa in European competitions in the next year or so.
Yeah, we'll save that Unai Emery talk for a little bit later in the episode. But Daniel, let's just transition over here to what was the biggest game of the weekend between the Blues being Chelsea and the Red Devils and United. Daniel, a lot of controversy coming into this one just because of Ronaldo being left out of the squad. Before I get into the details of the game specifically, I just want your opinion on Ronaldo being dropped by Ten Hag. And what's your stances on that midweek fiasco with Ronaldo and Spurs?
So look, Ronaldo was asked to come in the 87th minute. And by the time the 89th minute came, I think he was already walking down the tunnel. For me, I'm really on the fence about this one. Was Ronaldo in the wrong? Yes, he was. Your club, your team is asking for you to come off the bench. They're already winning this game. They have basically already wrapped up the win. But you're still a professional player, you're a professional athlete. If your team asks you to come in off the bench in the 87th minute to close out a match, you do so. No questions asked. There's players, youngsters especially, that crave those last 5 minutes. They want to get in. They want to show their talents. They want to show what they can do. Him telling United, or basically showing United that he doesn't care for these last few minutes at the end of the game was completely wrong from him. For him walking down the tunnel, even worse. However, this is where I'm on the fence. He is the most decorated goal scorer of all time. Does he deserve to be coming off the bench? Probably not. But his form doesn't help his argument in this. He's been in terrible form lately, and he can't seem to find the back of the net. So if I'm Ten Hag, I understand why I'd bring him in a game like this. You bring him in, they're up 2-0. You don't need to worry about him running in the attacking third. You literally just send him in. Just hopefully he scores a goal. Hopefully he gets his confidence up. And hopefully you move on from there. A lot of hopefuls. But he didn't come in. He left the squad and the rest of his team on the sidelines and walked back to the dressing room through the tunnel. Completely in the wrong there. I don't know. This is such a weird, it's very tough because if you're in Ten Hag's spot, you're not going to play Ronaldo. But at the same time, he wants to get in there, get in on the squad, or get out, right? So it's a little tough one there.
Daniel, I'm gonna have to sign up for my boy Ronnie. He's one of the best to ever do it. And when you have a guy like that in your team, you got to play him. And multiple times, Ronaldo's been called to warm up, go through the paces, get ready to come on, and then Ten Hag just leaves him there waiting. It's happened time and time again, and for players that have to go through that to not be called upon after, it's a joke. So I understand where he's coming from and the frustration of Ronaldo, obviously, having to warm up and then not being called upon. And then when he is called upon, there's only 2 minutes left. So yes, he's in the wrong for going to the dressing room early for sure. But at the same time, I understand the situation. They promised him when he tried leaving before the window closed in September, you're gonna have a spot in this team. You're gonna be important for this team this campaign, and those promises haven't been met. So the way the club has dealt with that, in conjunction with the new coach coming in, it's been poor. It's been handled very poor, and for a guy that wanted to leave, they didn't let him do it, and now there's been a lack of cohesion, really. So I understand why he's frustrated. He even came out and had this big social media post saying, in the heat of the moment, and he owned up to it, which I really respect. But he also addressed, just his love and passion for the club and for the city. So I thought it was a great way of just sort of showing face after the incident. And I see why United dropped him, but from the Chelsea fixture, but I still think that it's been handled very poor, and it's not a way to treat an all-time great and a club legend.
Yep, I think I agree with you there.
Yeah.
So
Coming
Daniel,
back. Yeah, go ahead.
this,
Go ahead. Yeah.
coming back to the Chelsea versus United game, it's a big one, right? It's two massive clubs fight for fourth, 1 point separating the two teams coming into this match.
Mm-hmm.
We already talked about United dropping Ronaldo. Ten Hag, I think. Okay, hang on. This is another question. Do you believe he should have been dropped? Because I'm completely with dropping him just based on his reaction to that. I feel bad because he should
They
be
have
playing,
to drop him because
but
if any player does that, it's
Exactly.
unacceptable. Just like it's a club rule, right? You can't do those. It's just a behavioral thing. You can't do. I understand why Ronaldo did in the moment, of course, like if out of frustration being called to warm up earlier in the game and come on earlier in the game, but they never brought him on. And then I'm not gonna repeat myself, but I think they had to drop him. That's what I disagree still with the situation as a whole.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have been dropped in my opinion, but they had to. They had no choice to.
Yeah. In this game, Chelsea was without Fofana, without Conte, without Koulibaly, without Reece James, all of them injured.
Mm-hmm.
It was announced sometime in the last couple of days that Conte is not going to be fit for the World Cup, so that's a big blow for France.
Mm-hmm.
Reece James, who knows if he's going to be fit for the World Cup?
Probably
Again, might be a big blow for England. But moving on to the game. This game was pretty boring. I'm not going to lie to you. There wasn't too many big chances. It was a lot of playing in the middle third and just like passing the ball around, going through the motions. In the 87th minute, deadlock broke after McTominay tried to Batista bomb Broya to the ground and then proceeded to get up and get in the referee's face about how that wasn't going to foul. Look, these kind of things, like when like in the dragging down in the box, doesn't get called a lot. I think it should get called a lot more because dragging a player to the ground in the box is very clear and obvious, and I don't understand how it doesn't get called. And I think that's what McTominay was trying to argue, how like that happens all the time. But his was so blatantly obvious, and the ball landed right where Broya should have been. So like, I don't know. For me, there's no. It's 100%. It's so obvious.
Yeah, I was watching it live, and I'm like, this has to be a penalty. Not because I wanted Chelsea to win, but just because it was clear and obvious. You see him, full on wrap his arms around Broya and stop his motion from jumping because he's trying to leap for the ball, and that's where the ball ended up landing, like you said. So he took away a goal scoring opportunity, and on top of that, it was inside of the box, right? So it had to be called a penalty, and none other than Jorginho, the penalty merchant, steps up. And this is something I was talking with my friend about. We were watching the game, and he always goes left. And I'm like, that is pretty true. Jorginho goes left. And then I saw, as we're talking about it, I saw Bruno Fernandes, I believe it's Bruno, go over to De Gea and whisper in his ear, probably telling him which way to go. And funny enough, Jorginho went the opposite way. He went to the right, bottom right, and De Gea had gone to the left. That Jorginho so often finds himself shooting when he takes a penalty shot. So I thought it was pretty funny. Maybe a little bit of mind games going on between the penalty kick taker and the goalkeeper. I thought it was pretty interesting.
And then look, that left the game off at 1-0, and it looked like it was gonna end that way. United, I don't understand this United team, and one thing that frustrates the absolute, it pains me to watch it, is when United gets scored on late or like a game's close, and then all of a sudden they get scored on, for instance, in this game in the 87th minute, and then something just clicks and everything starts free flowing. Players start moving up the pitch. The pace of play gets faster. You start creating chances. And what frustrates me is that I don't understand why it needs to get to that point where you go down in a game late, where you start pressing. You should be playing like this the entire 90 minutes. Although it's not the most sustainable thing because you have your fullbacks getting sent forward, you have your DMs are running up the field. Play with a sense of urgency, and United does not play with it at all, and it's very frustrating to watch. But continuing with this game, Casemiro in the 95th minute leaps up and hits a header that falls is falling over Kepa. Kepa gets like his middle finger on it, tips it off the like high post crossbar, and just the ball rolls along the line and crosses by like I think they said it crossed by like 3 millimeters or four
It was
millimeters.
so tight of a margin.
Something ridiculous. Anyways, that goal from Casemiro was massive for United at the death. It tied this game 1-1, gave United a point instead of walking away with nothing. And it was just like it was scenes. They were going absolutely nuts. It was
It was
I was
Casemiro's
screaming at my
first
TV.
goal. It was Casemiro's first goal for the club, and it was a massive one, huge. I thought Kepa had made a crazy save and pulled it off the line, but he just wasn't quick enough, and
Yeah.
it wasn't not even a matter of being quick enough. It was just such a difficult way of stopping the ball because it was spinning backwards, so it spun back
Yeah.
on the line. And like you said, 3 millimeters is just such a fine margin. It's actually insane how accurate the technology is as well, because you're watching it over and over and over again on the replay. And you could see how tight to the line it is. It's
Yeah.
just absolutely insane. And for United to scratch out a point from this and stay in that top six is very crucial, very crucial.
Mhm.
And they lacked something up top on this day. Maybe Ronaldo could have been that guy. I'm not,
Yep.
but yeah, a draw in what was a very highly anticipated match. Oh, Daniel, there's one more thing I want to talk about too. Sorry,
Go
it's
ahead.
just about this Chelsea side, and it's about Graham Potter. I think that people were a little bit skeptical with Graham coming in, obviously because they had a top manager in Tuchel, and Bowley wanted him in, right? So I thought it was interesting from the gaffer to leave out Havertz, and I say Havertz in particular because he's been poor. He's been super poor of late, but even though he's been poor, many managers would still play him just because of the name, just because of the history there over the last year and a half that he's been at the club, or 2 years he's been at the club, and just the price tag that they paid for him. You see that happen time and time again, and I think that this was a really firm move that I really liked from Graham Potter, leaving out Havertz from this game and what was such a big game. Even though he was fit, he left him on the bench and never brought him on because he just hasn't been performing. So I really rated that move from him. I thought it was something that many people would overlook and say, why isn't he on? It's Kai Havertz, but sometimes you got to leave out your good players, your great players, to try to push them and get back into the swing of things and have that hunger again.
Happening with Ronaldo, happening with Kai Havertz. Not at the same level of greatness, but two great players that should probably have minutes but are being left out. And it's good to see managers like this. I won't lie to you, I don't mind it.
Daniel, very quickly too with United now. United has some more transfer news that United's always linked with everybody. But the highly coveted fullback just got his first call up to the Dutch national team, Frimpong, that plays his football in Germany for Leverkusen. He's had a fantastic start to this year. Very pacey, very good going forward. Do you think he's another Wan-Bissaka type player, or do you think he can come to United and actually have a positive impact in the squad?
I think he's okay. Obviously, seeing Wan-Bissaka come to the squad, everyone thought he was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But people knew Wan-Bissaka from the get-go could not go forward. It still shows which is why he's left out of the squad week in and week out. He cannot go forward for the life of him. And although Delo probably isn't, he's not nowhere near as pacey. He's probably not as good defensively. You need a guy who can play on both ends of the ball. Jeremy Frimpong is that guy. He has 7 goals in his last 11 games for Leverkusen, which is just ridiculous. Which showing he can go forward. He has the pace to play right back, and he's good defensively. He's the modern fullback. He is somebody that I would love to see at United. He's someone I'd love to see in the Premier League. And I hope for United's sake, they don't just go and blow the bank on this guy. Because although he's a really good, young, and exciting player, United have a very good tendency of just, here's 100 mil. And I don't think this is a player that should be a massive price tag. If you're going to drop 50 mil for him, sure. You have the money to do so. You're one of the biggest clubs in the world. Go ahead. Just, if you're going to sign him, please do not blow the bank. That's all I'm asking.
That's very high evaluation for me, Daniel. 50 million. Wow.
I think 50 million just because how young he is, right? And
Yeah.
how good he's been performing this year. Bayer Leverkusen isn't going to let him go for some chump change.
All right, Daniel, let's kick it off next with Erling Haaland and Manchester City. This guy is just unbelievable. We talk about him all the time now, but it's just you can't help but not to.
We're gonna do a
Uh,
weekly segment on Haaland. Every single week we
this
have a
guy
Haaland
is
segment.
just insane. He scored, another brace, Daniel, another brace over the weekend against Brighton.
Mhm.
Goal tally in the Prem is now 17 goals, 22 goals in all comps. Bro,
Yep.
and we're in October. We're in October, almost November, but still, we're still in October, 22 goals all comps. This is just insane, insane stuff. One of the goals this weekend, it was a long ball from Ederson over the top. He found Haaland. There was a 50-50 challenge with the center half. I can't remember the center half from Brighton.
He just ran him over.
He just bulldozed him over. He just bulldozed him over. The guy had no chance.
It's not even fair, man. It's
He
not
sent him
fair.
to the floor, and then he just scored. The goalie was off the line. Sanchez was off the line. And even in the penalty shot too, I was watching a video breakdown about the penalty shot. It was so interesting because you could see the look in Sanchez's face. You look so defeated before the penalty was even taken, and Haaland absolutely rifled the ball into the net, and then the goalie had just fallen over towards the path of the ball, but he was nowhere near the ball. It was just
Oh god.
hilarious. Man, but you can't just go into the game thinking, we got this one when Haaland's out there. There's never fun to play against a player like that, especially if you're a goalkeeper.
I know.
And Sanchez was caught out twice against this guy in this in this game. And this was 3-1. I think is a fantastic result for City. People overlook this just because of how good Brighton has been this year. To beat
Mhm.
Brighton 3-1 is a great, great result. And these are the games that make champions.
Mhm.
These are the games that make champions. These are tough games to win, and to do 3-1 is just it's impressive. Even though it's City, I know it's City, and they're much better on paper. But the way Brighton's been playing this year, this is a fantastic result for City just to keep pace with Arsenal.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like City needs to win these games, and the championship level and caliber team needs to win these games against opponents that can keep games close. And Brighton's one of those opponents. And just going back to Erling Haaland, the guy's a freak. He's a machine, and that people call him a robot, which realistically he might be. He already has 17 goals in the Premier League, and we're like 2.5 months deep with 12 match days in. And for him to have 17 goals in 12 matches is just ridiculous. Taking that people are overlooking that Harry Kane has 10 goals in 11 matches or something for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't even get talked about because Haaland is blowing everybody out of the water. To take this into consideration, Haaland has 17 goals already in the Prem. The record, single season record currently in the Premier League is set by Andy Cole and Alan Shearer. Both of them have 34 goals in one season. He's halfway there, 12 match days deep. He still has another 28 match days, 26 match days left. Good math. 26 match days left in the Premier League. And he only needs another 17 goals.
Insane stuff.
He's on pace right now to have like 60 goals in all competitions. It's just wild. The what he's doing right now is crazy. It's just like it hasn't been seen since the likes of Ronaldo and Messi. Let's be Ronaldo and Messi in their primes.
Yeah.
That was the last time we saw something like this.
Daniel, let's go to another game in what was a massive, massive upset this weekend. It was Nottingham Forest, the last place team in the Prem, sitting in last in the table. They were 6 points coming to this game, only 6 points. They played Liverpool, and it was held at the Forest ground. Liverpool lost 1-0. Dean Henderson, what a player, man. What a player.
Back in
The Man United lone player, Dean Henderson, with his baseball cap and all, made 7 saves.
I hate that baseball cap so
I know,
much.
I can't stand it. I can't stand it. But 7 saves, and I'd say a good 3 of these saves were fantastic saves. Fantastic saves. Awoni scored the only goal in this one. He followed up on a rebound inside the box and just buried it. There's a good amount of chance for both sides, really. Nottingham, it wasn't like they struggled to score. Kuyate had a couple of missed chances. Liverpool missed some chances as well. Obviously, good goalkeeping from Henderson, like I already mentioned. There was a chance at the end of the game in the dying stages where Allison came up into the box, and Dean Henderson made a crazy sprawling save right on the line just to keep the result, which ultimately won the game. And then another corner happened, and Allison was up again, and I believe it was Johnson. Yeah, it was Johnson, the Welsh international player. He found himself 1v1 situation, and he empty net, and he missed the net, or he hit the post. So it could have been even 2-0 in this one. But it was just a hard fought game from Forest. And I think they really deserved this result. Liverpool were poor, obviously, in many aspects of this game, but Nottingham just really deserved this win, and their fans really needed it. You could see the explosion in the stadium, in the stands when Awoniyi had scored, and how much this goal meant for them against the top team in Liverpool. So Liverpool loses vital points, and at the same time, Nottingham, they are able to get 3 vital points that they're still in the same position they were, but they're tied with the 2 teams in front of them. So I just think it was a fantastic result overall, and they sit with 9 points now.
And look, Liverpool currently sits in 8th place. It's nowhere near what they expected, how they expected this season to go. Good on Nottingham Forest for putting up a massive 3 points at home, because, like you said, they definitely deserved at least a point in this one. Of course, Liverpool could have come down on one of their chances and scored and tied this game and walked away with a point each, which is still quite shocking from a Liverpool perspective. But for Nottingham Forest to score that first goal and then to fend off a Liverpool attack, which is scary to say the least, good on them. And it really shows, because like you said, the Nottingham Forest fans were going absolutely nuts, just crazy. Dean Henderson was like yelling at fans, like he was going nuts.
He gave the finger to the fans at the end of the game. That was so funny. That was so
I hate
funny.
that cap.
He points out to the stands. He's like, "Hey, you," and then he just gave the finger. It was funny. But Daniel, looking at this Liverpool team as well, going back to their top players, they were missing again. Mohamed Salah was non-existent in this one. You could see also the frustration and the demeanor of some of these players. Harvey Elliott missed a great chance, and then he smacks out at the floor, punches the grass in frustration. You could see that there's emotions are running high with Liverpool right now, and sitting in 8th place. These top tier players, they're looking at themselves and they're pissed off. They're pissed off, and they just have to do better now. They have to do better.
They do. It's as simple as that. They need to do better. All right, we're gonna move on to our table recap, just so we haven't done one in a while. Andrew, I'm just gonna run it top to bottom.
Go for it.
Arsenal's still in first, which is surprising. I thought they would falter by now, but good on them for still being in first. They did draw this weekend to Southampton, which everybody was calling just an absolute fraudulent game from this ref. I know it can be frustrating when refs.
There's something that similar that happened with Broya. Something similar happened with Gabriel Jesus.
And it wasn't
held him. Yeah, it wasn't called. So
it wasn't called. So yeah, Arsenal did end up dropping points this weekend, but they still sit in first. Manchester City. I almost said Manchester United. Manchester City currently in second. Tottenham is in third. Newcastle's in fourth, and this is where Newcastle didn't even think they'd be here, but many people didn't think they'd be here. They beat Tottenham this week, and it propelled them into fourth. So good on Newcastle.
6 draws though, eh? They have 6 draws.
6 draws. They've only lost one time this year.
That's terrible. The 6 draws is kind of terrible though.
6 draws is bad, but the fact that they've only lost one time this year is just ridiculous. Chelsea currently sit in 5th after picking up the 1 point against United, and right behind them is United. Fulham sit in 7th. Liverpool, like we already said, sits 8th. Brighton 9th, shows big win, or how big of a win City had against them. Because look, sitting in 9th place, although they haven't been on very good form as of late, the last 5 games are 0-2-3, which is pretty poor. But then again, still sit in 9th, still a hard team to beat. West Ham, who are currently playing as we speak, sits in 10th. Brentford sits in 11th. Everton in 12th. Crystal Palace in the 13th. Bournemouth, who is playing West Ham right now, currently losing 1-0, sits in 14th. Aston Villa is in 15th. Southampton 16th. Leicester City, who I don't even understand how this Leicester City team is in 17th, but they are. They won.
They've gone up a little bit. They're in relegation.
with 2 wins in the last like 5 days, which definitely boosted them. Leeds in 18th, Wolves in 19th, and Nottingham Forest, like we said, in 20th.
Man, what a big win for Leicester this weekend. To
Two.
go against Wolves, another team that's at the bottom of the table that sucked this year. That lack creativity, lack goal scoring up front. Leicester wiped the floor with them 4-0. And I loved Jamie Vardy getting caught drinking a Red Bull before going
That's
on.
so funny. It's so funny.
And then scoring a goal. That's absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And for Leicester, this is just a much needed win to get back on track and then to propel them outside. They're just sitting outside by only 2 points, but at least they're outside of that relegation. It must mean so much to the fans and to the players. And hopefully they can continue this momentum and then leapfrog a couple more teams and get into a safer spot within the table. And then I also want to highlight very quickly as well. We mentioned Newcastle being in fourth place, which is incredible for now. But also, I've been really impressed with Fulham of late as well. Fulham to sit in seventh place, a newly promoted side. I think that Mark Silva has done a fantastic job so far, and guys like Palhinha have been an integral part of their success. Man, this guy's winning almost every ball in the midfield, and I think this league has been a good transition for him just because of his physical style. So. And then you have a guy like Mitrovic, which is proven, that's a recipe for success. So I think they've added the right pieces this year and actually taken the transfer window very seriously, where in previous years they haven't. Yep. So I think they've done a fantastic job, and hopefully they can continue to win games, and also for them to stay up would be a massive feat. So
Yep. I completely agree. We are going to move on to the third and final segment. Unai Emery is back in the Premier League.
He's back.
Just quickly talking about him. Aston Villa just signed him. Like I said, probably about an hour, 45 minutes ago now. Yeah. They signed him from Villarreal. They paid his $6 million release clause that Villarreal had on him, and they are set to pay him $7 million a year. He was a former Arsenal manager, like many people do know. He had a stint in the Prem. He took Arsenal to the Europa League final and lost to Chelsea 4-1, which realistically, I don't think many people expected him to take Arsenal all the way to the finals in Europa League, but he did. They lost to Chelsea 4-1. And then the following year, after a very poor run of form, he was fired from Arsenal. But he has won the 4 Europa Leagues, the most by any manager to date.
Yeah, Daniel. This was a fantastic signing, in my opinion. I think that it was a very quick turnaround from firing Gerrard. Obviously, to move on so quick, they really knew what they had in mind, which was bringing in a top tier and proven manager like Unai. We've seen on Arsenal, he didn't have the best success in the Premier League domestically, but once he left with Villarreal and also in his previous stints with Sevilla, he's been a dominant coach, and he's done it with sides that weren't necessarily the best squads on paper, but he still had gotten results, which was you can't deny that. So bringing a guy like Unai is, I think, the right move, and hopefully he can utilize the squad he has, because I think it's a decent squad. I think it's a very decent squad, and I think he can turn things around. So I like this Unai appointment, and I think it was super swift for them to get it done.
I completely agree. The fact that they got it done in like less than 3 days is just incredible to me. I think when they went to him at first, he was kind of like on edge about if he was going to sign for Aston Villa, just because he had just previously won, or what was that? Has it been 2 years now? 2 years ago when he won the Europa League with Villarreal. So look, it's difficult for him to say goodbye to that team, especially with the trophy that he won being the second biggest trophy in Europe. But I'm glad he's back in the Prem, and I guess we'll get to see a lot more good evening. Some nice quotes from him. I gotta love a good evening. Thank you guys for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, we also appreciate it. As always, we're on Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, on YouTube, everywhere, wherever you guys want to listen to us, we're there. Make sure to follow us on social media at Premier Talk Official on Instagram. Thank you as always. We really appreciate it.